Joe, a conference game in the Big Ten, Penn State versus USC. I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. Maybe it's just all the craziness. By the way, we're not even talking about the 70-team Super League they're trying to go to. I digress. But Penn State, USC conference game, Big Ten, what do you think?
Look, I can't not after what we saw last week for USC versus Minnesota and the bad performance that they put out there. More importantly, the bad performance they had against the run. Especially also a couple weeks ago, the way that they played against Michigan, defending the run. What has Penn State done so well this year, Blake? They have ran the ball so efficiently and consistently. And the biggest thing that we have praised Penn State for to this point is Andy Kotelnicki being so creative with his offensive decision-making and the deployment of Nick Singleton, who's been really productive, Katron Allen, who's been a really good spellback for him, and then that has set up Drew Allar to have a lot less pressure on his shoulders. I can't help, Blake, but focus on that singular issue for this game, and I'm leaning Penn State pretty heavily because I'm very fearful that USC's lack of depth on their defensive line and their inability to slow down rushing attacks is going to catch up to them in this game.
I am on Penn State this weekend too. So what I'm about to say, because this is what I've been doing, and people has been coming into the show and been like, "Oh, here goes Blake," defending USC. I'm going to tell you, I'm a little skeptical on that for this reason. Okay. I know that USC has been beat up, okay, and they don't have the depth along their defensive line, and it's what Penn State has done. I got to be real with you. With everything that's going on in college football this year, I'm cautious on everything. I am cautious on every single little thing that happens. Here's the thing, though, Joe. They have not played cohesive, complementary football once this year, meaning USC. They have been so good at getting off the field on third downs, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
When they're playing really good defensively, offensively, they can't get things going. When they're playing good offensively, they can't get the stops that they need, okay, to finish a game. They have not been able to do that all year. It's what happened against Michigan. To be honest with you, you got luck. I say lucky. You got lucky in how the game transpired in the second half versus LSU because LSU couldn't finish a game either. I'm just cautious, Joe. I'm so cautious because I know we look at last week. I think Minnesota defensively is better than what we're giving them credit for. By the way, they're the number one team in the country in passing yards allowed is Minnesota. Right. Which is crazy. They got like two white good dudes in their DB room, which is even more ridiculous. I digress. I think Penn State's going to win, but I also don't know if they have not been tested with just better overall athletes on the field either. I think they're going to out-physical them. I think they're going to maintain and score. Miller Moss is still going through those early stages of being a starting quarterback, and we expected so much from him. They have not played complementary football, and if they find a way to do it in this game, it's going to be closer than what the experts think.
I think that one thing that you just brought up there is important, that Penn State, the real only test that they've had so far, because I don't necessarily include West Virginia because West Virginia has significantly underwhelmed this year. Illinois is their only real significant test. So they haven't been as physically tested as
Can
USC
I rudely interrupt you? Can I rudely interrupt you?
Yes, go ahead.
Talk about the Bowling Green game with Penn State.
Well, in what manner?
I mean, I saw them vertically push the ball down the field, and there's a young man named Zachariah Branch that exists. So to your point, to add into that, you're exactly right in what you're saying.
Well, okay, but then the flip side of this, though, is that when they went up against Illinois, which is one of the better defenses in the country, that's one of the most effectively schemed defenses in college football, they didn't exactly light up the scoreboard, but they still played great offensively. And they were able to get the plays that they needed running the football. I can't not come back to this because, frankly, there is a large disparity in between the strength and what has seemingly been the weakness for USC to this point. And when there's that much of a gap, it's going to lead to one team winning over the other, because significantly over the other. And I also look, I don't care if people get pissed at me over this and USC fans get pissed at me over this. I don't think Miller Moss has been as good as everybody thought he was going to be after the LSU game. I think he had some really nice plays against LSU, and everybody got really, really hyped up on him. So much so that people were saying, and were mad that my take was that he's the worst quarterback that Lincoln Riley has had, which is 1,000% true so far, because the other guys that started were Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Spencer Rattler, and Caleb Williams. He's none of those guys. He has been fine. That has been my whole definition of him, is he has been fine. And if they're trailing, like the situation that they had against Minnesota, he's not a guy that is going to ascend and make the big play and save them and win the football game because he put the team on his back. I think he is perfectly capable and serviceable. And more importantly, they lose this game, man, he's not on the hot seat, but things are starting to get really, really sticky for Lincoln Riley.
Look, and to your point, because we have a big USC contingent on our show here, Lincoln Riley is 5-7 in his last 12 games. Okay, and that's not good. I'm with you. I agree with everything you're saying. Like, look, Penn State has shown that they'll hold on to the football. They're 53rd in time of possession. They're 31. I tried to find it. I had lost it earlier. That's why I was over here looking for. But they're 51st in time of possession. They want to hold on to the football. And look, with Singleton, what's up with him and Allen? Look, man, they can run the football. Okay, that is going to be their biggest thing. But that's not the thing for me, though, Joe. To be real with you, is I think I am really in love with Andy Kotelnicki. I love the progression of Drew Allar, and I think they're going to. I think it's going to be closer early, and then Penn State separates because they just lean on them. They're physical, and Allar has a pulse at throwing the football down the field. Garrett Nussmeier was able to do it. And I think because they have a better running game, they can convert in those red zone situations. I'm just not willing yet with D'Anton Lynn, who has shown, Joe, to the credit of USC, I know last week happened. I get last week happened. D'Anton Lynn last year had a defense that was number one in the country in run defense. They have had issues the last 2 weeks. The numbers are skewed because Michigan had 60 plays and 55 of them are running the football, right? It's going to be skewed. When you look at the deeper metrics at them being 87th in run defense, Joe, they've been really good. That's what's helped them on third down. Like, they've gotten big stops in the running game on third down. I'm just not – I see the talent. I see the progression. I see them getting better. However, I just think Penn State's going to lean on them so much that it's going to bust open in the second half.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. Well, I think it's a little bit more of a nuanced discussion than just the stats that they have allowed.
Very nuanced. The style does not work for USC in this one.
Right. So here's what I mean by that. Michigan, they made some plays where they made some really good stops. They didn't exactly allow Mullings and Edwards to beat them for 5 yards a clip every time they ran the ball. It was a lot of short gains, but where the game broke open is that they allowed these huge rushing gains to Donovan Edwards and Mullings, the big play that brought Michigan back into the football game. All of those,
the football game. I mean, it literally
won them in the football game. Those types of issues were the ones that I flagged coming into the season that were going to happen eventually, facing a league that runs the ball as much as they do in the Big Ten. And then the other example, and I know that it's controversial, so much so that Lincoln Riley got all worked up in the post game because a reporter asked a player about it, but Brosmer being able to push his way in on fourth down, those are examples of where opposing teams that are not supposed to be more talented than you that have been able to win on the line of scrimmage. And I know it's one singular thing that I'm hung up on, but it's an important one for this conversation.
I agree. And look, man, Penn State's a real contender based off of their schedule. They're a real contender based off of what they do. Joe, to be real with you, it's why I had him there like firmly in the playoff run just because of this, man. I mean, like, dude, any team that can line up and run the football, and I felt like Drew Allar was going to get better. Like, he's a traitsy dude that can really spin it, big physical quarterback. I'm just not – I know that they're probably going to be 4-3 and USC is going to lose this game. I'm just not willing, with how I've seen them progress on defense, yet willing to give up on them. I think it's going to be and again, this season's been so goofy,
Right.
And here's another thing. I heard somebody say this today. He's not like a football analyst or anything, but it's a good buddy of mine. And he's like, look, man, I don't like this traveling stuff. Like, I mean,
it's been weird. It's been super weird.
It's been tough on teams, man. It's very much been tough on teams, especially when you're doing it this far into the season. So we'll see, man. I like Penn State a lot. I hope I didn't like paint the picture that I don't. I just
that's probably been the most tame way that you've defended a team